Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo. Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Good morning, all. Happy Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday because Monday was the 4th of July and I was here. I was here with all of you guys. I hope you guys had an amazing time. I hope you guys were able to, let's take care of real quick. There we go. I hope you guys were able to enjoy the fireworks yesterday. You know, we're on this whole kick of exposing this Yahoo that's going around telling people he's a private investigator when he's not a private investigator. Now, granted, I'm not saying his information isn't legit. I'm not saying that he doesn't get to the bottom, but he's not a private investigator. He's not following the law in the state in which he resides. That is my claim. I stand behind that 100%. And this is not something, first of all, nobody knows. It seems like only one channel here actually thinks that his, arena days made him this Hollywood star. I didn't know who he was. Most of the people out here, until I brought his name up, have no idea who he is. He is a no-name person in our world. Therefore, how can I be trying to get clout by using his name? This is exposing the con that he has concocted. And while there may be some channels that believe everything this man says, this is not one of them. This is not one of the channels. This is one of the channels that knows the law, knows how private investigating laws work, and knows that he is not conducting himself properly in accordance with the law in his state, period. In his state, period. Because he's trying to say he has a right to practice PI services because of some fictitious $25 filing in Mississippi, which he claims he does not live in and does not have a business in. So explain to me how some other state that you don't even reside in dictates the laws in the state that you reside in. It doesn't make sense, and it's untrue. And no matter how he tries to spin it and how many times he tries to make an outrageous claim and point the finger at somebody else and call them a moron and tell them to go F themselves and make himself even look more despicable than he already does, instead of just realizing he can conduct these investigations without saying he's a PI, because he's not a flippin' PI. He has no PI license. He's saying he's a licensed PI. There is no license in Mississippi, and it's not the state he resides in. Therefore, they have no jurisdiction over the laws that he is required to follow in PI services, period. I don't care if he's from Florida. I don't care if he's from Ohio. I don't care if he's from Colorado. He has to follow the state in which he resides laws related to private investigating services. And he's not. Period. He prides himself. Now listen to this. This is a PI that wants to work for somebody's hard-earned money, right? Tell him that he can find them in 2 weeks. But then when you don't like his services, you get comments like he gave the Dylan Rounds family, you have to find me to serve me. Does that sound like a private investigator you would like to use for your missing child? Somebody that's not accountable, somebody that has no moral turpitude, somebody that is hiding. I mean, if you are a reputable PI, you have no idea, you have no problem with your clients knowing where you reside, right? He does that because he doesn't want people to check his license in the state in which he resides, because you will find out he is violating his own state's laws. That's why. So I thought, how can we turn this around? I am so sick and tired of hearing this one channel basically telling me I'm a liar when I'm not, because this is something I have a great understanding of how this works. Okay. Again, almost became one myself, have an amazing understanding of how this all works. And you're sitting there calling me a moron and a liar on your channel. Now, mind you, just earlier, you're saying, well, you guys need to quit being so mean to him. You need to quit being so mean to him because this is not helping the Dylan Rounds case. Well, explain to me how telling Dylan Rounds' parents to F you 5 or 6 times on your live is helping that case. How is helping this case promoting his non-PI license as a PI license helping any case? And if you honestly think that I am that vain, that I would actually be on my channel looking for clicks and views, you have lost your damn mind. I don't need your help. I don't need his help. I'm fine growing my channel just the way it is. I could be covering a case, but because of this jagaloon, right, as Judy Ron calls it, I have to stop what I'm doing because I will be damned if another family is exposed to this nonsense and this garbage piece of crap person you want to put on your shoulder and Hail Mary to. I got nothing against you, Doug. But I am going to expose this asshole that you're bringing on your channel, causing all this damage to families. And if you don't like it, sit back and let me do my job. Because you're not looking into anything he's saying. You have no understanding of what he's trying to pull. And you are being conned by a con. But you know what? I've told you. So at this point, anything from yesterday on is on you, man. Is on you. And I will make sure once this is all said and done, because I'm not done yet. Once this is all said and done, I'm going to show you you were wrong. And you should be careful who you promote on your channel. It's dangerous. It is dangerous. And I don't care. I'm not saying he didn't get relevant information. I'm not saying that. That has nothing to do with why I'm here. I am here because he's not a legitimate PI. He has no private license, private investigator's license anywhere in this United States. He has not, and he even told me on my show yesterday that he did not want to follow the rules to get his private eye license. So he created basically this loophole, which is illegal as hell, to be able to put the PI label on his jersey, right? That's not how it works. Because hell, if it was just as easy as going to a different state, putting a $25 fee and being able to call yourself a PI in a completely state that you don't even reside in, or that you reside in, which is completely a different state than the one you just filed this thing in, so you can call yourself a PI. The only way he could be a Mississippi PI is if he resides or has a brick and mortar store in Mississippi. He has none. How do I know that? Because he told me that himself yesterday. So explain to me how he is possibly or any way related to Mississippi law. How is that the governing state when he's not even residing in that state? You tell me the next time you get pulled over and you get a speeding ticket, you say, oh, but the speeding ticket in the town that I come from would only be $50. Why are you giving me a $187.50 ticket? I want, over here, it's only $50. I want a $50 ticket. Tell me how well that will work for you, right? When you're arrested for a crime in another state, why don't you tell them that you want to be prosecuted under another state's laws because you have less punishment. Because if they would have followed Mississippi law instead of Florida law, you'll be able to get off scot-free. Tell that to the judge. See how that works out. It doesn't make sense. Why? Because you have to follow the laws in the state that you reside. And one thing we know for certain is he doesn't reside or have any business in Mississippi. So explain to me how this man is a PI for Mississippi. It doesn't take a rocket scientist degree to figure he's full of shit. He has no private investigator's license anywhere in this country. Anywhere. And if I'm wrong, Jim, I know you're watching. If I'm wrong, call me in today. I'll have the phone lines open. You tell me what state you are legitimately licensed in as a private investigator. And I will graciously run out here to YouTube streets and say how much of a moron and dumbass I am. Right? Happy to do it. Actually, would love to do it. Good morning, everybody. Karen Davis, first to say good morning to all. Nice to see you. Followed by Karen G. Good morning. Good morning. Chadwell, nice to see you. Justice for All, nice to see you. Cindy S. Rosemarie, Nancy B. Lipstick and pepper spray. Nice to see you this morning. Genevieve, Patricia Sells, Crazy Nurse. Who else do we have here? We have Amber, Miss Ingema. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I don't know all these names, but good morning. What else do we have? Higgy, nice to see you. Irene. And you know what? It is sad because there are many creators that cover true crime, right? There are many creators that cover true crime that are having to stop what they're doing to expose this jerk off that wants to call himself a PI, prey on victims in missing persons groups, reach out to them to solicit their business across state lines, and act like he is a PI when he is not and has no credentialing as such. Then, if they don't like him, he goes on YouTube, blasts all their personal information, tells them, ha ha, you can't serve me if you can't find me, ha ha. This is somebody you want to hire to go look for your missing loved one? One that sits on another YouTube channel, tells the family, F you, F you, F you, and F you, right? Meanwhile, this creator is sitting in the background laughing at a family that has a missing 19-year-old child, and then goes on the next day and says, oh, you know, the family's a little upset because we gave him too big of a platform. No, you guys don't know what the F you're doing. And I'm not trying to start a fight. And nor am I trying to use this man's name to get myself a pat on the back. But when I see something wrong, I say it. When something doesn't jive, I say it. And then when you want to poke the bear, then I dig in. Then the real work begins. So I'm sitting here thinking, sorry guys, I know I've missed a lot of people this morning. So hi to all that's here. Got a lot on my mind today. Especially hearing that I'm out for clicks and views. I've had higher clicks and views on other people. Just FYI. I could probably be doing a skit right now on Summer Wells and be doing a better job at filling this chat room up this morning. But I can't. I can't because there's something that is wrong here on the streets of YouTube, and it's not Bullhorn Betty, and it's not JLR. But since you guys want me to prove it, I'm going to prove it. So this is what I'm going to need, and this is what I'm going to need for my audience, and we're going to do this until we have the funds raised. We're going to call a private investigator today, a legitimate, licensed, above board private investigator. And we are going to find out how much it's going to cost Bullhorn Betty to disclose what state this Yahoo resides in. And then we're going to know beyond a reasonable doubt that he lives in that state. And guess what I'm going to do from that point? I'm going to research their private investigators' laws, and I'm going to file a complaint. And I'm going to use all these videos of him calling himself a private investigator, his unethical behavior, and I'm going to send it to that governing board. That's what I'm going to do. I'm done playing games. So you want to poke the bear? Okay. You can poke the bear. But I mean, at this point, there's no point because you already poked the bear, right? So you can say all the nasty stuff you want about Bullhorn Betty. You can say all the nasty stuff you want to say about JLR. You can say all the nasty stuff you want to say about MGL or anybody else that's running this information. Guess what? At the end of the day, we don't care because I was told, a friend called me and says, you know, you're picking on this, you know, you're going to get a lot of heat. And I said, you know what? It's the right thing to do. If I have to take the heat to do the right thing, then that's what I'm going to do. Then that's what I'm going to do. It's not like it's not like I've been living in a freaking fairy tale here on the streets of YouTube. I think I've earned my stripes here that I think I can take a few more lickings. If it's the right thing to do and it puts this to bed. But you will not, I'm going to tell you right now, James Michael Terry, you will no longer be calling yourself a PI on the streets of YouTube when I'm done, because you're not. You will be exposed. Your behavior is going to be exposed. What you've done to these families is going to be exposed. So be mad at me, love me, hate me. I don't care. I know what I'm talking about. I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And you can't take that from me. You just can't. And, if people, if their integrity is called into question because of this, that's on them. Because I tried to be friendly. I tried to warn them. Just a second. All right. Good morning. So, is Anissa in the house? Good morning, Anissa. You know what? I think you're a little late. I think you're going to be fired if you show up to work late again. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. So I prepared a video, and I wanted, I noticed that it did get a lot of hits on it. And the purpose of showing this again this morning is not for hits, right? It's for education. It's for education. And I want to make sure that everybody, I'll get this. I don't know why it annoys me, but when there we go. Whenever I open anything up, it doesn't move it over to the other side. Let's see, here it is. So we're going to push this up. It's probably going to go here. Hold on. Let me move this over. Oh, don't tell me what I can and can't do. I should put it on my, give me just a second. There we go. Now I got everything. This is a little blurry on my big screen here, so hopefully it's not too blurry for you guys. So we're going to go through this. This is a 44-minute video that I prepared yesterday outlining the information that I found out. Now, granted, he keeps proclaiming he's not from Florida. And I want to make sure that people aren't hyper-focused on the state of Florida, because it doesn't matter which state he's from. Because whatever state he resides in is the laws he must follow. So he could live in Kentucky, he could live in Ohio, he could live in Florida and just lying to all of us. I don't know, right? I don't know. But what I do know is no matter which state he resides in, he's required to follow those laws, not Mississippi's laws, where he has no residence and no business, and that is not his state of residence. That's what I do know. I know that hands down. Just like for every single person in my audience, you do not live in Florida. Maybe some of you do, but for the better part, let's just say none of you guys live in Florida. How are you going to benefit from Florida law when you don't reside here and don't have a business here? Does that make sense? If that makes sense to you, excuse me, let me do it a different way. If that doesn't make sense, if you believe that this is the question I'm going to ask. If you believe you are required to follow the law in the state you reside, put 1. If you think another state that you have a measly piece of paper in is the governing state for you, put a 2 in. And then we'll get started. I only have 42 likes this morning with almost 200 people in the chat. I might as well just shut down and go home. Might as well, right? Shut down and go home. I don't see any numbers. And there we go. I guess I got a little delay in my response here, so I apologize. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. And I don't know what person, outside of them being just shoveled down their throat that this guy's a PI and you better listen, because if you look into it, you're a moron. You're a moron. F you, F you, F you. If you look into me, F you. If you want proper credentialing, I'm not giving it to you, but you have to find it. But if you try to find it, F you. You're trying to make money off my name. Okay, give me a break. Give me a flippin' break. F you, F you, F you. No, wrong person, babe. Wrong person. I know the law. I know the law. And I know when you don't reside in a state and don't have a business in the state, that's not the law you're allowed to follow, buddy. That's what I do know, buddy. Coming from Bullhorn Betty Moron over here that doesn't know a damn thing, that's just an idiot, just trying to make a name for herself, just trying to get the clicks, likes, and views, just trying to make money off the back of this hardworking man that's done nothing wrong. Glamour life, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. The problem is he has no business. The requirement of Mississippi is to be a resident or have a brick and mortar store. You cannot call yourself, that's according to their own laws. That's Mississippi law. You cannot sit here. All he has is one piece of paper filing a fictitious name in the state of Mississippi. He has no brick and mortar store or resident. You're required to have one or the other in order to be practicing PI services under the Mississippi umbrella. He has neither. He has no business license in any city or county in the state, which is another requirement to classify yourself as a PI in the state of Mississippi. So while I agree 100% with that statement, he's not doing that. He's got one flimsy paper that he paid $25 for to say he's a fictitious name in the state of Mississippi, no residence, no brick and mortar business. And he resides in another state completely different. So you're going to try to tell me that this man must follow the state of Mississippi, not the state he resides in. I bet you the state he resides in begs to differ. Because if he's sitting in a place, like I'm sitting right here in Florida, if I'm picking up the phone here in Florida and calling Idaho to make, to offer my PI services when I'm not licensed here where I sit, you are violating the law. So unless he's in those states that do not require a license, unless he's physically in those states that do not require a license, making those calls to those families, offering his PI services, he is breaking the law in his own state. That is just a fact. That's not fiction. That is the law of that state. So even if he does have a business, a legitimate business in Mississippi, if he's sitting here in Florida or sitting over in Ohio, making phone calls and does not have PI license in the state in which he's picking up that phone and making that phone call, he is in violation of that state's law. It's just that simple. Just that simple. So let's hear what I've been able to concoct. And I will be stopping this throughout just to commentate on some of the things. So we are very crystal clear about the scam that he's perpetrating upon people, unknowing victims in these Facebook chats where people are truly just trying to find answers. Now remember, this is the same man that tells those families that want to fire him or sue him, ha ha, you got to know where I'm at to sue me, to serve me. So we're going to find out what it's going to cost for a PI to give me what state he's from. And once we do that, we'll start collecting some funds to make sure that we know exactly what state he's supposed to follow. And if he's not following that state's requirements, we're filing a complaint against him for what he's doing to people. Now, I get it, glamorous life. I get it. And I'm just trying to explain that I understand what you're saying, but there's no, I've looked into this. I mean, I don't come out willy-nilly and start throwing baseless accusations. I don't. I have not done it in any of the cases that I've ever covered. And this is no different. Why is the PI fired allegedly from Dylan's family? Because he's lying. He lied to them. He's been going around and like they're the client, yet he's on YouTube disclosing information that his client paid for. So YouTube is getting the benefit of these people's hard work, hard-earned money. This stuff is against ethical standards in PI practices, which is another reason why I know he is not a legit PI, because he has no ethical standards. The ethics is huge in PI work. Huge in PI work. It's huge. And he's going out and think about it. How pissed off would you be if you forked over $2,500 to somebody to find out information or find a loved one, and you've got to tune in to somebody else's channel to get that information that you paid for? Or that because you paid for it and he got the knowledge, now he's sharing it with people that didn't even pay for the information off your back, which is the victims. How would that make you feel? I mean, let's look at it from the proper light, right? Like, I would be completely, utterly pissed if I forked out, because my loved one is missing, and I forked out $2,500, and this guy is going on every single channel with information that I purchased and handing it away for free or to make himself more money. I would be furious. Well, then why is he on Doug No Thanks saying that that the parents owe him money? So which is it? You seem like a smart person. I'm sure you can put the puzzle pieces together all yourself. Right? Do you think it's fair? How would you feel if you purchased his services while you're looking for your missing son or daughter? I don't know what kind of kids you have. Your child, right? And you're desperately looking, and this Yahoo is taking the information you bought and handing it out free of charge to everybody that will listen, instead of providing it directly to you and keeping his mouth shut because you purchased it. Or whenever you have a problem with his conduct, and say, instead of him saying, I'm sorry, I'll do better, him telling you to go F yourself after you just gave somebody your last dollar, to find information about your missing child. I know, but what he says is a con. He's lying about everything. Where's the contract? Have him produce the contract. Right? Something's going on here. Something's going on. So, we just have a lot. So long story short, we're just going to jump into this. I'm not going to split hairs over this guy. This guy's a joker. He's not a legit PI. He has no legit PI license. He doesn't reside in Mississippi to utilize Mississippi laws. He doesn't have a brick and mortar store in Mississippi to utilize Mississippi business laws. He has no business other than one little measly piece of paper in that state that does not justify him saying he's a Mississippi PI. Sorry, doesn't work that way. You guys don't believe me? I've got the guy from the president. I got an interview with the president from the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association, where this man, James Michael Terry, will never be accepted as a member to that organization, ever. So let's, yeah, he does have a business license. No, he does not have a business. He has a fictitious name filing in the state of Mississippi. That's it. A $25 fictitious name filing. I'm curious to find out where his business license is, because a business license requires a location. And he was on here last night, or yesterday rather, stating he does not reside anywhere in Mississippi and does not have a business inside Mississippi. Though he was calling JLR just the day before a moron because he owns his own business in Mississippi. And he only called one office. So we called all of them. Right? That's what he said. We called all of them. We caught him in that lie too. And he knew that when he came on here yesterday. And that's why he finally acknowledged he has no brick and mortar business nor a residence in Mississippi. So how in the hell do you think Mississippi law can possibly apply to anyone that's not in the state to enforce those laws. You can't be in a different state and say, oh, I want to follow the state of Mississippi's laws. Can you imagine if everybody across this country said that? We're not following the state we resides in law. We're going to follow a different state's laws. This is what he showed you. Let me show you what he showed you. This is what he showed each and every one of his people because I downloaded it. This is what he's trying to say is his business license. God, I hate this thing sometimes. I don't know how to use a flippin' Mac and it irritates the piss out of me. This is what he showed the world. This is what he showed as his business license. Does this look familiar? Does that look familiar? This document right here, let me put it up. This is what he showed as his business license. But look at me, I'm in good standing. This is my business license. Because he doesn't want to show you what it really is. I pulled the entire document. All right? And you can fact check this. Because this is the same document, except we're not going to cut out all the pertinent information and just show you, look, I'm my business name. I'm Gulf Coast. I'm in good standing since 9/13/2008 in Mississippi. See, this is my business license. I'm allowed to do business. I don't care if Doug's in here. I got no problem with the man. But I am going to show him where he's erring in his ways. This man is not a PI, period. This is what he shows as his proof of having a business license in Mississippi. Let me show you what this really is, right? This is what he has. This is what he has. This is not a business license. This is a fictitious name filing. That's all it is. A fictitious name filing. Lord have mercy. I'm going to go slap nuts over this damn. Oops. Wrong thing. There it is. It's up here. Right here. This is his fictitious business license. Right here. That's it. And even if he is in there in good standing, it's only for a fictitious name. That means he only paid the fee for the fictitious name. That's all he's showing you on that thumbnail. That is not a business license. It's not a business license. My email address is bullhornbetty@gmail.com. You know, I would be fine getting back to who's missing, Doug, if you weren't promoting this jerk off as a PI when he has no licensing, no credentialing, and he's hiding from people from suing him. That makes them victims, and I cover victims here. I don't just cover the missing. I cover all. I cover murders. I cover crime. This is a crime against people, Doug. I'm very upset that you would give him that platform, and you tell me how was it okay? Just out of curiosity, how is it okay for him to be on your channel telling the family of Dylan Rounds, F you, F you, F you, and F you? How is that helping the case? How is that helping find Dylan Rounds? And explain to me how it helped listening to you laughing in the background while this family is going through so much, and you don't think I have a heart or I'm not going to look into this Yahoo? I could be making more views right now talking about a different case, probably talking about Dylan Rounds or Summer Wells or something like that. But you had the audacity to go on your channel and say that this was for clicks and views for me. Trust me, this has nothing to do with clicks and views, but I'll be damned if this man is going to do this to another family. I'll be damned if that's going to happen. And you can be mad at me all you want. So now you're going to throw insults, right? When you're in here, you're going to start throwing insults on my channel. When you're the one that's promoting a man as a PI that has no PI credentialing. And again, I'm not saying he's not good at what he does. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm not saying he didn't get relevant information. What I'm saying is he's not a private investigator. He's not following the laws, and it doesn't matter if he's not from Florida because he's required to follow the laws from the state in which he resides. If he's in Ohio, he has to follow Ohio rules. If he's in Kentucky, he has to follow the law in Kentucky. If he's here in Florida, he has to follow the law in Florida. He can't just pick and choose which state's laws he wants to follow. Because clearly, he explained to me yesterday, he is not in Mississippi. He doesn't reside in Mississippi, and he doesn't have a brick and mortar store in Mississippi, which is a requirement to say you are a Mississippi PI. He has none. He has none. He can't say that he can't have a business in Mississippi and work it from Ohio without being compliant in Ohio. I've made my point. I'm telling you, if I see him advocating that he's a PI, I will go down this rabbit hole again. And as a matter of fact, I'm not done. Because I don't like being called a fool. I don't like being called a liar when I know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't like it. And you did that to me. You didn't do any work behind the scenes to verify the validity of the information he was peddling. And you chose to call me a moron on your show. You chose to make fun of people that are exposing this man for not being a PI. I don't care. If he wants to work these cases, he can work these cases just like everyone else, just like me and everyone else. But he's not going to get the upper hand and say he's a PI when he's not a legitimate PI. He's not. And you know that. You know he lives in a different state and he's not following his own state's requirement to call himself a PI. You know that. You know that. Good morning, Ernie. I can't answer the phone right now. I can't answer the phone right now. But next time you want to go on your channel and give him a platform so he can be disparaging to me, my name, or the people that are actually doing the work to find out the information, that's a shame. I cannot answer the phone. If you want to text, text. Let's see. Terry claims he does not reside in Biloxi. Let's just go through the video. Let me clear this up. Doug, while you're here, maybe you weren't paying attention. Maybe you weren't here yesterday. Maybe you don't know what's going on. But he doesn't live in Biloxi. He's lying to you because he told me yesterday specifically. Everybody remember that? He told me yesterday on live right here that he does not reside or have any business in Mississippi. So let's see if I can find that video. Where is that video? Let me pull this back and find the video. We'll just move right on with the video because I'm done splitting hairs with you. You don't want to believe me? Don't believe me? I don't care. I know what I'm talking about. And I know for a fact he's not in Mississippi. You know how I know he's not in Mississippi? You should go back and watch the interview. It's at the end of my channel. Oh, shit. I just dropped that, didn't I? I did. Here, hold on. Let me add this to the stream. There we go. I pulled back. Let's just watch. Hi all, Bullhorn Betty here. As many of you guys know, I'm in the process of fully exposing the conduct of a PI named James Michael Terry, which resides, to the best of my knowledge, in the state of Florida. But based upon his own admissions, he definitely does not reside in the state of Mississippi. Why is that important? So many of you guys know that I have an entertainment channel here on YouTube that covers true crime. And one of the cases that I have been following and covering is the Dylan Rounds case. In this Dylan Rounds case, it's of a 19-year-old boy that has a farm in Lucin, Utah, that disappeared without a trace. His family, which is from Idaho, came in to try to find answers related to their missing son. Apparently, the grandfather of Dylan Rounds was reached out to by one James Michael Terry to aid and assist as a PI in their grandson's case. It is also my knowledge that that grandfather paid James Michael Terry a sum of money, an undisclosed amount of money, for his services in the aid of finding his grandson. Since then,
I am a show. We're doing
James
that
Michael
today.
Terry has basically run amok, has no ethical standards, no moral compass, and is not the first time I've had interaction with this alleged PI. So once he started digging in and causing all this extra animosity toward victims' parents, which are also victims because they're trying to find their son, and this guy is on Doug with no thanks, basically telling the entire family, F you, F you, F you. Please listen to this.
Never mind, Doug's laughing behind the background, but he calls me a moron in my own chat.
Many are wondering whether private investigator James Terry, also known as Jim Terry, was actually served with a cease and desist letter. I was hoping to hear from him, as I saw a quote in a news report that said, "If they can't find me, then they can't serve me." However, Mr. Terry was interviewed on
Should I go back and read that? If you can't find me, you can't serve me. What kind of legitimate PI says some nonsense like that, Doug? What kind of nonsense? What kind of garbage are you promoting on your channel where he's hiding from being sued? And again, this is not my beef with you, Doug, at all. This is my beef with this piece of shit right here. If you want to step in it, step in it. I don't care. I don't care what kind of hate you or your channel are going to provide me. I know I'm right about this.
Banks Investigates channel again, and he gave us a piece of his mind, and we got to see what he thinks of this cease and desist letter. Warning, since there will be profanity in the upcoming clip. You can see the full interview on Doug's channel, which I will link in the description. Drop your thoughts in the comments.
To tell that law firm, Candace Cooley, and whoever else thinks that I am a fraud.
Oh, yeah. Candace Cooley, by the way, is the mom of Dylan Rounds. The family and anybody else that questions his things. I don't need to go on your channel, Doug. I don't. And you'll probably change your mind on another case. But you are jumping in with both feet, protecting this animal that's preying on victims' families. And you're not opening your eyes. And I even said you're being conned by this man. So at this point, you're choosing not to look at the proof. You're choosing to side with this guy. And you will be made to look like a fool. Okay? You will be. And God forgive me for saying fool. But you know what? This is your integrity, and clearly you don't care. So it's out of my wheelhouse. You deal with the repercussions, because this is going to happen. And I'm going to find his state, and I'm going to file a complaint against him for what he's doing to these families. And when that's done, and you realize he's not allowed to say he's a PI, then that's going to be egg on your face. And I tried to warn you, just distance yourself from him. You're choosing to jump in with both feet. And no. You have no idea. Those spy pins are garbage. I had no way of turning them back. And you know what? You keep this shit up, you can get out of my freaking chat. Because you are clearly part of the problem.
That I have no legitimate background in this industry, or that I have for 1 minute lied about any of the things I believed in my investigation to be true. So, the only way I know how to be me, and the only way I know how to answer that email in this unprofessional, extremely crude environment that we're in right now, this unlawful environment, is to answer.
This crude environment. This crude environment. You mean like the crudeness that's about to come out of your mouth? The crudeness that's about to come out of your mouth. And Doug, stick around, because I want you to hear him say he does not reside in Mississippi. So sit tight, little boy. Sit tight.
No, I would answer. The people that know me best, the people that know what's in my heart. So that's why I'd like to say at this time to everybody listening.
This is the PI that needs business, that needs your business. Watch.
Thinks that I'm a fraud,
and I cut it after the one FU, or the third FU, not the 18th.
Of my full career at their disposal.
What career?
So without further ado,
your failed arena career?
My statement is pretty simple. Be yourself, right?
That was old.
Fuck.
That was just a couple days ago.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Hey, listen.
This is a PI that you want working for you?
Does that sound very professional? Does that sound like a PI that you would like to conduct business?
Now, again, Doug, how is that a person that needs to be touching any missing persons case? Oh, and don't forget what you just heard. Let's go back just a little bit. The laugh you're hearing behind this man is Doug with no thanks, as this man here is telling victims' families to go F themselves. Way to go, Doug. Show some heart.
My statement is pretty simple. Be yourself.
Listen to Doug laughing.
Fuck.
That's Doug laughing behind the background.
Fuck you. Hey, listen.
Doug with no thanks. Investigates.
Does that sound very professional? Does that sound like a PI that you would like to conduct business with? So this is not just a normal run-of-the-mill PI. Clearly, he has no moral turpitude. He has no moral compass and acts very unethically when practicing those PI types of tasks. So it made me wonder, who is James Michael Terry? That is...
But I'm supposed to know who this Yahoo is, right? Because I'm trying to get clout from him, right? Right, Doug? I'm supposed to get clout from him, but I didn't even know who he was because he's some kind of famous arena football player. Not. Didn't arena football die in 2000, early 2000? Who knows this guy? Who knows him?
Alleging he's this PI. When I looked at the cease and desist letter, which was sent by the attorney for the parents of Dylan Rounds on their behalf to tell James Michael Terry to cease and desist any more verbal or written communications about the case. He is not an expert and has not done the proper work necessary in this case. And he's actually muddying up the water in accordance with the cease and desist letter. Look at the cease and desist letter. So in the cease and desist letter, it's to James M. Terry, Gulf Coast Investigation at 2356 Curlew Road, rear office, Palm Harbor, Florida, 34683. Dear Mr.
Now, mind you, that is the address on his business filing with Mississippi. Okay. He's referring to a Florida address on his own paperwork with Mississippi. Again, another red flag for me.
My office has been retained by the Grounds and Pooley family to send this letter to you and demand that you immediately cease and desist your continued unauthorized involvement in the Dylan Rounds case. You have made malicious, unfounded, and incorrect statements and have made verbal and written attacks on the Rounds in Pooley.
Which reminds me, those verbal and written attacks, we've had multiple victims of James Michael Terry on this channel, and they've all had the same exact allegations, these right here.
Family. Your continued unauthorized, malicious, false, and inflammatory statements are defamatory and subject you to payment of damages to my client. Your actions are diverting the focus of finding Dylan Rounds to what happens to appear to be your own personal vendetta and or to promote yourself at the expense of the truth. You are interfering with and undermining the investigation of Dylan Rounds' disappearance. You are damaging the integrity and the effectiveness of the entire investigation by your unauthorized, misinformed actions, both publicly and privately, concerning this investigation. The family of Dylan Rounds immediately demands that you cease and desist any further action, verbal and or written, pertaining to the investigation of Dylan Rounds' disappearance. Your failure to stop all further actions, verbal and or written, will result in filing legal action against you. The family of Dylan Rounds do not want to waste their time, resources, and energy with any further action against you in this matter, and therefore request your immediate compliance. Your background and record of service has confirmed your lack of credibility and integrity. This has further
lack
been
of integrity and credibility
in this matter since your release from this matter. And on the second page, it states, we further demand you send me, as legal counsel of Dylan Round's family, all recordings, memorandums, notes.
I guarantee he probably has none.
File in this matter. Very truly yours, Ronald L. Swafford. So as you read the cease and desist letter, it does not sound like they are happy with his services. So he was brought up on my page and on my channel when we were discussing the Dylan Rounds case. And then more victims had come on panel and called in to tell me their story and their interaction with this guy, and all have been very, very horrible. Definitely not a professional person. So it makes me wonder, knowing all that I know, what kind of education, what kind of experience has this man had? Does this man possess?
In order to get my license, the piece of paper, and a fictitious name is nothing but a business name.
Absolutely.
In the state of Mississippi, there is no private investigating license.
I know that.
There's no private investigating license in Colorado,
Right.
Idaho, South Dakota, Wyoming, Alaska.
So you're acknowledging that you do not have the proper credentialing to get a PI license. So you only work in states that do not require a PI license because you're not a legitimate PI. Then when I looked at that cease and desist letter, it clearly showed a Florida address. So I immediately checked the Florida search for his license to practice PI here in the state of Florida where he resides. Didn't find anything. The only thing I was able to find was an expired security officer license. That's it. And we don't even know if that belongs to him, but there is no expired license that he has ever obtained in the state of Florida. So then I go over to sunbiz.org to check to see if he has any filings for Gulf Coast investigation here in the state of Florida. There was no fictitious name and no corporation registered. Now, I realize he is residing in Florida and holds no PI license in the state of Florida, holds no business credentials of this business existing. And then we hear him go on no thanks with Doug, no thanks investigations with Doug, and produces a bunch of this paperwork. So I screenshotted the paperwork and located all the paperwork, which was in Mississippi, and equated to him filing a $25 fee to have a fictitious name registered in Mississippi. So I was coming out with all this information this morning, and we were blessed with a call from Jim Terry himself, where he expresses he does not reside nor have a business in the state of Mississippi.
But not a convicted felon. So what I decided to do, because the other career that I had, is to open the business up where I can work immediately.
So he's basically saying he didn't want to follow the rules because when he started this thing, he was here in the state of Florida. He goes on to tell me that he had done all these credential, did the class and everything, but he had to wait 2 years to get his license. And he didn't want to wait that long. He did not want to follow the rules. So he created this loophole that's completely illegal, by the way, to say he's a PI. Just keep listening.
Can you explain why your business license, let me ask you this. Can you explain why your business license, your fictitious name that registers you in the Mississippi, because you have to be a resident of Mississippi to have to conduct yourself as a Mississippi PI. You can't be, why is the address on your fictitious name in which you are relying to do business as a PI in Mississippi, why is it showing a Florida address?
First of all, that's not true. You can't have a business in the state of Mississippi and not be a resident. Otherwise,
but you cannot act. No.
Me the license. That's not true.
No.
That's not true.
No, I read it, and I will be calling to confirm this. You can have any business you wanted
Don't leave, Doug. Stay tuned to hear from the president of the Mississippi's Professional Investigators Association. They're in Mississippi.
In order to conduct yourself as a Mississippi PI, you are required to have a resident or a brick and mortar business in order to conduct yourself in Mississippi as a PI. Where's your business? Where's your resident in Mississippi to conduct yourself as a PI?
I don't have a residence in Mississippi.
Boom!
So in order to conduct yourself as an officer, as a PI officer, or a PI investigator rather, in the state of Mississippi, you have to be a resident of that state to fall under the state of Mississippi's laws. If you are a resident of another state, the only thing you're allowed to do is go into the state of Mississippi to do private investigation work in the state of Mississippi and no other state.
Unless the other state has reciprocity with Mississippi, which I'm not sure any state has reciprocity with Mississippi, but we're going to find out, because stay tuned. The president, again, the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association interviewed with me yesterday. So Doug, don't run anywhere. You're going to want to hear this.
Because you have to be a resident of the state to be able to follow those state laws. So even if Jim is not a resident of the state of Florida, whatever state he is a resident of, he is required to follow those state laws in any business practices he has. As of right now, all the information that we have been able to find shows that Jim Michael Terry, James Michael Terry, resides in the state of Florida and does not have a valid PI license to conduct PI business in the state of Florida, or even solicit PI work even in states that require no PI license. He would actually have to be in the state that requires no state license, no PI license, to perform PI practices in that state. For example, he can't be in the state of Florida, which has this strict requirement for a PI business, and be working on a case in Idaho without being in Idaho to work that case. That's how the law works in the states. For example, Mississippi law doesn't supersede Florida law whenever you're a resident in Florida, and vice versa. If you're a resident of Mississippi, you can't apply Florida law to a Mississippi resident or business. The same applies with this PI license. Therefore, based upon his own admission, he does not reside in Mississippi nor have a business in Mississippi, other than paying a $25 fee to have a fictitious name business listed in Mississippi. If he resides in Florida, Florida law supersedes. He is in violation of the law. And I had an opportunity to speak to a gentleman out of Mississippi, which is the president. Let me get this correct so I make sure that this is all above board. He is the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association in Mississippi, which he explains how the law works.
I want to make sure everybody knows, whether he resides in Florida or he resides in another state, that other state supersedes. He's got to follow the law in the state. Tell me what state he's from, and I will tell you what laws he's required to follow. Can anybody tell me what state he's from? Doug, since you are promoting this man as a professional PI, can you tell me what state he resides in? Because don't tell me Mississippi, because we know he doesn't reside there. He let that cat out of the bag yesterday. So if you are going to promote a PI on your platform, I would assume that you know what state he's from and what laws he's required to follow in order to conduct PI work. So Doug, do you know what state he's from? I want to know what state he's from, because I'm going to find out anyways, because we are going to get a legitimate PI to tell me what state his driver's license is registered in. So I'm giving you forewarning. This is not going away. You know, again, I got no problem with you. I know you're upset with me, and that's okay. You know, this too shall pass. I'm going to continue to do my job, and I'm going to continue to do it well, whether you agree with it or not. But if you know what state he's from, please let me know, and we will look at the laws and check his credentialing in that state. No, I'm pretty sure his response to me is full of insults, and that's what you want on this channel. And I'm not playing those games, Doug. So simply answer the question if you know. What state does he reside in? I'm not asking for his address. I'm not asking for personal private information. I'm asking what state does this man truly reside in, and which laws governs his PI work and practices. And actually, I ran with this case before JLR ran with his, because we were on here talking about Dylan Rounds when people started coming forward about this man right here. Okay, which again, quit being vague and tell me a state. Where is his driver's license registered in? What state? That's what I would like to know. Not where his houses are. What state is his primary location? Where does he reside? What state is his homestead? Because he told us yesterday he was not a resident of Mississippi. So clearly there's another state that dictates what PI practices he's allowed to do. So I'm giving you an opportunity to be honest here if you're really wanting to prove me wrong, right? If his driver's license says Florida and he never changed his driver's license, then he's in a lot of trouble. You're required to change your license address within 10 days. Period. Period. So it sounds like he is from Florida. He stated he has a driver's license in Florida. Florida law pertains to him, and he's violating the law. He is not a legitimate PI in the state of Florida. And this is probably where he is conducting his business, reaching out to people. So, Doug, this is a problem for me. I'm not saying his work's not good. I'm saying he's not a PI. He is not following the law. And as a matter of fact, breaking the law. And I am a law and order person, and so should you be. Just saying.
There was a point in this interview where he didn't understand my question, but he later answered it further down in the interview. It is a must-see. Please stay tuned. It is playing now.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Andra Griffin, and you were corresponding with a colleague of mine. He was discussing the PI services that are conducted, you know, in the.
And Deb, I'd like to get back to finding the voice for the voiceless, but when you have a PI that's preying on these very victims' families, I have a problem with it. So yeah, I will be happy to get back, but not until this man is reported to the proper authorities and fully vetted and investigated. And if he has a driver's license in Florida, he's in a hell of a lot of hot water.
In Mississippi, and he said you were the president of the well, just tell me a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, I'm currently the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association.
Okay.
I'm also a police officer.
You're a police officer, and you've advocated for stricter requirements in Mississippi for the residents of Mississippi. Is that my understanding?
4 years. 4 years. Yeah. And I've written a lot of articles.
I'm holding your feet to the fire for that. Send it to bullhornbetty@gmail.com.
Podcasts and a lot of stuff because, you know, at one time I was licensed in 9 states.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm licensed in
4. Yeah.
Mississippi's not licensed.
This is a man that's from Mississippi that could utilize this Mississippi license with not having to have a private investigator's license. Why would a man, if he lives in Mississippi and is not required to have a PI license, why would he be licensed in other states? Because he's not allowed to work in other states unless he's properly licensed in those states. Keep listening.
And several years ago, when I was president of the Mississippi PI Association, the first time, I noticed, because I had been a licensed PI for companies for years and years and years before I ever became a member of Mississippi PI Association. But when I was president of MPIA the first time, I noticed we kept getting applications from all over the country, as far away as Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And that puzzled me. I thought, why in the world does somebody in Alaska want to be licensed? Want to be a member of the MPIA? This guy had an office in Anchorage and an office in Brandon, Mississippi, my hometown. And I thought, let me do a background on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he had a criminal history. And of course, I found Alaska was not a licensed state and Mississippi was not a licensed state. So,
oh, sorry, I hit the wrong question. So I just saw something that came in that it's like any other, like I went to school for paralegal school, right? Unless I keep up my credentialing with the state of Florida or as a professional paralegal, I don't get that criteria, that letter behind my name, right? Real estate. If I don't keep up, it doesn't matter how long I went to school for. If I don't keep up with paying the fees for my license, I'm not a licensed realtor. I'm not a realtor at all, even though I went to school for it, right? So even though he may have gone to school for this, if he's not keeping the proper credentialing to do the work, he cannot classify himself as a PI and is fraudulent in doing so. So, it really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter whether this guy went to school for it or not. If he's not keeping the proper credentials and proper licensing in place to do to call himself a PI, he is not a PI.
These problem unscrupulous PIs who can't get licensed in legitimate states, they come here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what was going on. So, I then implemented background checks and all this kind of stuff. But the first thing, the next thing I did was I wrote a bill. And I took some of it from Florida, some of it from Louisiana, and I created a bill to establish licensing for all PIs in Mississippi. Because as it stands now, you can get out of prison and work as a PI the next day.
Wow, that's a little scary.
It is. And there's only, I think, 4 states remaining in the entire country that have no licensing. Now, we're the only state in the entire southern half of the nation, because it was always Alabama and Mississippi were the 2 non-licensed states.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'd need a PI, I would say, where do you work? And they would always say the same, Alabama and Mississippi.
It is amazing to me how people truly believe that. So you only have to have a piece of paper to circumvent your own state's laws. You can go to any other state, file a piece of paper, and you're absolved from following your own state's guidelines. So he's not a legal piece of shit. He's an illegal piece of shit. He's not, do you guys not understand? Like, if I wanted to be conducted for Mississippi laws, all I have to do is go over to Mississippi, file a piece of paper and $25, and I don't have to follow Florida business laws, even though I reside in Florida. That's honestly what you believe. I'm calling you out a little bit, but I'm not trying to. But that's the misconception of many people out there that don't understand the law. That is not true. That is an untrue statement. That is what he is telling people, which is totally untrue. And we're going to call the state of Florida, and I'm going to confirm that with you, since we now confirmed his driver's license is in the state of Florida. Keep listening to this video. This guy explains it very well to the end. Now he's about to start getting confused, and he answers the information incorrectly because he didn't understand what I was asking, but he actually answers it in just a few more minutes.
because there's no licensing. Well, then Alabama created licensure several years ago. I was one of the first to get a license there. My license number is 12 in Alabama.
Wow.
But so I wrote this bill, and I started.
Well, we're going to challenge that, Google, because Google attorney is not necessarily correct, and it's not a defense in the state of Florida to not know the law. And I'm sorry, but I don't care what Google says. I went to school for years to know this. This is up my wheelhouse for those that are just, this is my receipt right here. That's my receipt. I know what I'm talking about, especially here in the state of Florida. I don't know how they confirmed that, but I've confirmed completely opposite of what everybody's telling me in here. Let's keep going.
And I got, it's weird, you know, I got a white Republican and an African-American Democrat both to sign on to that legislation, bipartisan support. Mm-hmm. It flew through the House of Representatives unanimously. It went to the Senate, and the Senate put it in committee, and every year they kill it. They won't.
I'm not saying I'm licensed PI when I'm not a licensed PI.
Yeah, so and
illegal. What he's doing is illegal.
Signed on to it. He called me, and he's under the governor at that time, still fine. He called me and he says, "Look, your bill never going to pass."
Keep listening, honey.
This governor wants no new boards, no new licensure, and your bill calls for the establishment of the Mississippi PI Regulatory Board and all PIs to be licensed. Mm-hmm. He's not going to allow it to pass. So that's where we are in Mississippi, and we have a new governor. I put the bill in his hand. Mm-hmm. There's just, you know, Mississippi sees that as bureaucratic red tape. When I met with the legislator, and quite honestly, the Republicans, I tend, because I'm a small business owner, I tend to lean a little more conservative when it comes to business. But to be quite honest, the Republicans are the ones that give me the most grief about that bill. Democrats are typically all on board, but you know, they see it as bureaucratic red tape. It's cumbersome to, you know, business. When I met with one of the Republican leaders, my argument to him was, look, every other state's got it. I mean, there's only 4 left. We're going to be the only state left in the country. I thought that was a winning argument. Mm-hmm. But when I told him that, he said, good. We like being different. We don't want to be the same as everybody else, in his redneck voice.
Right.
So you know, over the years, I just became so frustrated with it. And eventually, you know, for years I was part-time law enforcement, full-time PI. And several years ago, I went back. So now I'm full-time law enforcement, part-time PI, but I'm still the president of the Mississippi PI Association. And I actually went back to law enforcement just to be a detective and to do some investigative work. But over the past few years, I've risen through the ranks. Now I'm assistant chief, which that wasn't the plan. But so
let me ask you
again, an assistant chief of law enforcement, right? And now here's where I'm going to ask him a question. He's going to be confused, but it's going to be later explained how this man, if he's in the state of Florida or has a driver's license in the state of Florida, he is violating the law. And again, I hit a gold mine here because this guy is not only active law enforcement, he's the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association, and he's also licensed in the state of Florida. So he is knowledgeable about all these fronts. Keep listening.
Police and president of the Mississippi PI Association.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. So the rules and laws that you guys have in Mississippi for the PI is for residents of Mississippi. Like you guys can't supersede, say, if there was somebody that is in the state of Florida and is a state of Florida resident, you know, obviously the state of Florida has its own regulations on how to conduct PI businesses. A Mississippi law doesn't supersede the state law in which that person lives in. Am I correct about that?
Well, you're correct and you're not correct. Let me tell you, there are no laws regarding PIs in Mississippi. Nothing, nada. It doesn't matter if you're licensed somewhere, if you're not licensed somewhere. Now we have.
But that's just for the. Let me refresh that question. That's just for the state of Mississippi. Like, you guys can't say that somebody from Florida has to follow Mississippi laws, but not Florida law. I mean, you guys can't. The state of Mississippi can't do that, right? It's only when they're conducting business in your state, not other states.
No, there's nothing regarding. Maybe I'm not understanding you, but there's nothing regarding PIs. It doesn't matter what you do.
That's in the state of Mississippi. So, for example,
right.
If you had a resident that lives in the state of Mississippi and has a brick and mortar store in Mississippi, they can conduct PI business without any kind of license or anything in the state of Mississippi. However, if that person that's trying to say they're a Mississippi PI but don't even reside in the state and say reside in the state of Florida that has much stricter PI laws, they can't then turn around and say, well, I'm licensed in Mississippi but reside in Florida. They would have to, in my opinion, follow Florida law. I didn't know if you were agreeing to that or not. You know, like, I can understand that anybody can be licensed in Mississippi to conduct PI services inside of Mississippi, but once they reside in a different state, they have to follow that different state's laws, not Mississippi's.
No, that's not right.
Okay.
Because in Mississippi, anything goes. I mean, just think of it as the Wild West, tumbleweeds, street justice. I mean, there's just no laws. They don't care where you live. They don't care what you do. In Mississippi, there's no governance. Now, I'm licensed in Florida. I had an agency license in Florida. I'm licensed in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, and in Mississippi, you're supposed to have a business license if you have any kind of business. Now, I have a business license, but they don't even enforce that. Now, to join MPIA, I mean, our bylaws, I mean, you have to live here to be an active member. And we'll check. We have to check because we have so many people that lie. It's ridiculous that we have to really check, applicants to want to be members here. But if you don't live here, you can be an associate member.
Gotcha.
Now, the problem comes into play if the Mississippi PI lives in Mississippi and he wants to follow somebody or go.
This is where he explains what I was trying to ask originally. I want you guys to pay close attention to what this active law enforcement, president of the Mississippi and Professional Investigators Association, and licensed in several states. Why? Because you can't go into other states with a Mississippi no license. Okay? Listen to how he explains it. And listen to the end, because this is where he starts explaining how James Michael Terry is violating the law. This is the nuts and bolts. This is the meat and potatoes of this entire clip right here. So, Doug, if you're still listening, this is where it's at. This here is the proof in the pudding that I know what the hell I'm talking about. So quit calling me a moron when you are advocating for a PI that's not a PI. He's not licensed. He has no business saying he's a PI unless he's doing it in Mississippi for Mississippi. That's it.
Florida. He cannot without a Florida license.
Let's rewind that. Hold on. Let's rewind that just a tad so we can make sure we're understanding what he says.
In Mississippi, anything goes. I mean, just think of it as the Wild West, tumbleweeds, street justice. I mean, there's just no laws. They don't care where you live. They don't care what you do. In Mississippi, there's no governance. Now, I'm licensed in Florida. I had an agency license in Florida. I'm licensed in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida. And in Mississippi, you're supposed to have a business license if you have any kind of business. Now, I have a business license, but they don't even enforce that. Now, to join MPIA, I mean, our bylaws, I mean, you have to live here to be an active member. and we'll check. We have to check because we have so many people that lie. It's ridiculous that we have to really check, applicants to want to be members here. But if you don't live here, you can be an associate member.
Gotcha.
Now, the problem comes into play if the Mississippi PI lives in Mississippi and he wants to follow somebody or go to Florida.
Listen.
He cannot without a Florida license. I argued with an attorney one time who said in Jackson, Mississippi, he said, I need you to follow this guy to Memphis. And I said, I can't. He said, why not? I said, well, I'm not licensed in Tennessee. I used to be. I used to be licensed in 9 states. But I said, I don't have a license in Tennessee. And he's got reciprocity on the brains. He says, it doesn't matter. This is a Mississippi case. You can go there. I said, no, I can't. Because we have no reciprocity with them because we have nothing to have reciprocity with. We don't have a license.
Yeah.
Now, my Alabama license has a reciprocity agreement with Tennessee. So if I had an Alabama case and my subject went into Tennessee, I could follow him and work that case for up to, like 15 days.
Mm-hmm.
But in Mississippi, you can't do that. Now, I've lost work because let's say I'm working a case where the subject is going back and forth to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an Alabama PI can take that case because he can go in and out of Mississippi all he wants to and in and out of Alabama. But a Mississippi PI can't take that case because a Mississippi PI cannot go to Alabama without a license.
And that actually, you just answered my original question that I was asking you that you were confused on. That was where I was going, just to let you know.
Yeah. So this can come and go in Mississippi and do whatever he wants to, and nobody in Mississippi cares anything about what's going on.
So he can come and go in Mississippi, and nobody cares what he does in Mississippi. But these other states, like where he resides, do care if he's sitting in that state, using the phone when he's not properly credentialed in that state and saying, hey, I'm a PI. I can go out and find your kid. Your missing child. I can go out and find them in 2 weeks. He trolls Facebook missing person groups and reaches out to these families. Why is this so important? Because you remember, he was hired by a grandfather in Idaho. But what does this case bleed into? It bleeds into Wyoming and Utah. What are their laws for private eye investigations? We'll look that up.
Florida. Now, Florida may have an issue because, Florida, their PIs are, let's see, I'm licensed in Florida under the Florida Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
Oddly enough. So he's licensed with them, and they follow up on complaints and investigate, things like that. And if he's lying about his residency in Florida, it would be an issue. But Florida doesn't care if he goes to Mississippi. Mississippi doesn't care if he comes to Mississippi. I mean, he can do whatever he wants to.
Right.
The only recourse here would be to file a lawsuit, and there's been documented cases of that. I mean, he's not going to be able to join NPIA, especially not now. After this is being brought to my attention, I wouldn't allow it.
Right.
But people will Google. I get calls like this pretty frequently, and people will Google Mississippi PI licensing, and my name will always come up because I've been outspoken about it. I've been bitching about it for years, and they'll see MPIA and they'll think we're some kind of governing body or something.
Yeah.
So they'll call me and they'll say, we want you to investigate it. And I tell them, look, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can sue him.
Right.
But, and the news media needs to be aware of it. I gave him the name of the reporter who's interviewed me about this before.
Yeah.
But, until that happens, we're going to have convicted felons. We're going to have rapists and pedophiles. We're going to have people working as PIs in Mississippi because they can.
Yeah.
Now it becomes a problem when you try, like I have TLO is one of my database companies.
Mm-hmm.
TLO, they want a copy of your license. They want to inspect your office. They want to make sure you have an office with clock and door and shredder and all this kind of stuff. And most Mississippi PIs can't pass that inspection.
Right.
I wonder if our resident PI, James Michael Terry, could pass that inspection.
So they don't have programs, legitimate programs that you use to find and track people. They can't use them.
Yeah, I mean, there's some companies that if you tell them, live in Mississippi, they'll say, okay, well, just give us your business license. Which, I mean, my business license costs $25 a year, you know, and you just fill out an application. There's no background on it. But for MPIA, I mean, we require a copy of your business license. And see, now I'm licensed with Secretary of State and the county, that's what you're supposed to do. But even MPIA, we had such a problem with people bitching about it. Now we require one or the other. Give us a business license, fill out an application, give us your address and some references. We're going to contact them, and if we've got anybody anywhere close to where you live, we're going to go out there and check it out. So, you know, that's what we require. And oddly enough, we deny applications all the time. It sucks because we want to grow.
Right.
But we just can't have all these unscrupulous PIs joining MPIA.
Right.
I mean,
Unscrupulous
when I became a
PIs.
member, I don't know, over a decade ago, our Secretary and Treasurer was a convicted felon. I mean, when I became president, the first thing I did was take that from him.
Right. Right.
So, you know, and the MPIA was organized and created to help pass licensure, and the early boards back in the day was active in it, but it never passed.
Right. And
then when I came along, you know, I went down there, I lobbied, I did interviews, I did all kind of stuff. And just, you know, the Senate won't pass, because if it goes to the floor, it's going to pass.
Yeah.
They just don't want it. They don't want it on the floor.
Yeah.
They don't want
This
that.
is the issue that I can foresee coming up. Like, you know, we're talking about Dylan Rounds, where his family, you know, lost their son. They don't know where he's at. They're from different states. And, you know, this PI trolled a missing person, you know, group and reached out to them. And so here's where the damage is him muddying up. He's in Florida. So even though Mississippi could say, you know, they can be sued, but you have to sue in the state where the people reside. And he doesn't even reside in Mississippi, but he's utilizing, or at least trying to utilize, the laws in Mississippi to skirt Florida law.
Yeah.
It's convoluted.
Yeah, it is, and it seems to me like the Florida Department of Agriculture, I think, needs to be aware of this. But, you know, because PIs also have, you know, ethics. I mean, I have to take continuing education in these other states, and I've taught ethics, and ethics is a big part of PI licensure. So I think I would still advise them of this. And this is a good story, I think, for LBT. I sent him WLBT's number and a reporter that he should reach out to, because, you know, I hear this periodically where missing persons are being taken advantage of by these PIs. There's another one on the Gulf Coast, lives around Biloxi or something, that does this. He takes people's money, you know, and you know, that seems to be a reoccurring thing. But, you know, if you get a reporter in Florida or Mississippi,
Candace, I would like to have you up, because your name has come up and on my radar quite a bit. If you've got some time, would you be willing to come up and talk?
I would be happy to speak with them by phone, Skype, whatever. I'll be happy to take part in any kind of interview like that.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to just, you know, just explain how this guy is. You know, he may be licensed in Mississippi. He's not licensed in any other state. He's done it, you know, as a loophole that's not going to work, because, again, he resides in the state of Florida, which have very strict PI laws and, you know, continuing education, like you have spoke about, that you have to take yourself. And, you know, this guy is just doing some damage, and I feel really bad because, you know, he's victimizing victims already. And it's just sad.
He is, and as long as he claims he's doing it in Mississippi, or he can't do it in Florida.
Do you hear that? He can't do it in Florida. He can't do it from Florida. He can't do it in Florida. He has to be in Mississippi to conduct Mississippi PI practices. And we heard earlier in this interview, or in this clip, that he is not a resident of Mississippi. We further heard him state in another clip, not on his show, but from a reliable source here in the chat room that his driver's license is registered in the state of Florida. Therefore, he must, because in laws for driver's license, you only have 10 days to change your driver's license. 10 days, that's it. So if he has not changed his driver's license to a different state, he is required to follow Florida state law, which he's not.
Yeah, well, that's where he's residing, and he's obtaining clients from the state of Florida.
Well, see, now, if, when he's working in Florida, he's got to, abide under his Mississippi PI license and the Mississippi the Florida PI license and Florida PI laws.
Yep.
That shit about, well, I'm a Mississippi PI, Florida don't care.
Yep.
Now, if he's in Mississippi doing that, he can do whatever he wants to. But as long as he's in Florida, he's not going to get away with any of that because Florida Department of Agriculture don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, maybe once you get them on board and speak with an investigator over there, they can take some kind of action against him. They could probably suspend his license.
Yeah.
His Florida license.
He doesn't have one.
Does he? I thought he had a C license in Florida.
No.
He doesn't have a license in Florida at all?
Nope.
All right, so I'm a little confused. I thought you were telling me he was licensed in Florida and doing a lot of this stuff in Mississippi.
No, just the opposite.
Okay. Well, then he's committing a crime.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm better on board. And maybe it's because I'm from Mississippi, I'm not very smart. But if he is in Florida and working as a PI, he is committing a crime. It is illegal to work as a PI in Florida without being licensed, no matter where in hell he worked. Now, if he had another license and had reciprocity with Florida, even then, he's going to have to prove that in the guidelines. Like, you can work one case that bleeds over into Florida with your PI license if there's a reciprocity agreement and only for 15 to 30 days, period. So what he's doing is committing a crime. I believe it's a misdemeanor. Could be a felony. I'm not sure because, Florida's not my home state.
Right.
But the Florida Department of Agriculture needs to be advised. He's working as a PI in Florida. And if he says, well, I'm from Mississippi, they don't give a shit because there's no license in Mississippi and there's no reciprocity agreement with Mississippi. So he's committing a crime.
Yep.
It's plain and simple.
Yep. That's what we're trying to expose now because he is in Tampa and in Safety Harbor area, and he's trying to rely on this PI license or lack thereof from Mississippi as to his ability to conduct business here. And he was on my show earlier, and I asked him, what state is on your driver's license? Is it Mississippi or Florida? And he refused to answer.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just semantics. In Mississippi, there's no PI license of any sort. All he may have, and I hear this all the time, I'm licensed in Mississippi. Really, what kind of license do you have? Well, I'm licensed through the county. I'm licensed through the city. I'm licensed through Secretary of State. Well, what he's telling you is, well, I have a business license, which any fool with any business can get. Floor company.
Bingo.
Service. It doesn't mean they don't care if it's an investigation company. So he has no licensing in Mississippi, no PI licensing in Mississippi because there are none. And Florida doesn't care. He's got to be licensed as a PI in Florida. He's violating the law, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And he's certainly not a member of MPIA. So you need to contact them, and you need to, because I don't think law enforcement is just not up on those type of charges. Because this would have to come from the Florida Department of Agriculture.
Right.
But so he's in violation of the law and should be sued. Yeah. Because he's clearly violating the law.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, I thought he was doing some aspects of this crap from Mississippi, which would be fine because nobody would care. But he can't do it from Florida.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
His business address is even on his business license with Mississippi shows his Florida address. So he's actually conducting all of his business in Florida and trying to say he's allowed to because of this fictitious business filing he has in Mississippi. And I'm saying that's not how it works. You got to follow the law where you reside, and you reside in Florida.
Absolutely, and unless he was getting some kind of and operating under a reciprocity agreement, which he's not. And in Florida, you have to have one or the other. You have to have an A license or a C license. A is an agency, C is an individual. And if you have a C license, like I have in Florida, you have to be under an agency. I had an agency my own agency in Florida for several years. It just got too expensive and I wasn't doing enough work down here. So now I maintain my C license under 2 or 3 companies in Florida. And what that means is I can only take cases through one of those companies.
Right.
So, because he don't know the law.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have a criminal history?
He does. But he says he does have a criminal history, but I'm still hairy on whether he was convicted or, they just set him on probation and reduced the charges. But he was arrested on 2 felonies, but he has proclaimed that he is not a felon. He has a right to vote. So I have an understanding that there may have been a plea deal or reduction of charges. So I've got to look into that further. But yeah, it does sound like he has had a criminal past, but I don't know what, if at all, he was charged with.
Well, no, that's his problem. He cannot get licensed, even if he's on probation. I mean, unless those charges were expunged, and then it would depend on what the charges are.
Right. It was for grand theft.
Okay, yeah, certainly some kind of moral turpitude, something like that, it wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But unless he's had those charges expunged, I mean, he cannot get licensed anywhere. But he can work in Mississippi.
Gotcha.
But
work in.
But yeah, he's violating the law.
So now that you heard from this gentleman, which is active law enforcement, and the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that James Michael Terry is scheming people into believing he's a PI, a legitimate PI, when he has no legitimate PI credentials? He's inserting himself into these high-profile cases to make his name for himself as a PI when he's not even residing into the state in which he's trying to utilize the laws from. He's not a resident of the state of Mississippi. He has no business in Mississippi. Outside of having one fictitious name filing, he has no way proven that he is governed by Mississippi law. And that is important because that's the only place he has any information about himself or any business dealings that he's doing. He could not get licensed in the state of Florida. So please let me know if you know victims. One, if victims of his would like to be heard, please have them reach out to me, as we are definitely going to be exposing this and taking major action on this fact. So if you know of a victim, please have them reach out to me at bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Furthermore, do you believe he's a legitimate PI or do you think he's a scammer? I'm interested in your thoughts as we dive into this, as we take a deeper dive into James Michael Terry that is trolling missing persons groups on Facebook. If you guys have a James Michael Terry in your Facebook groups, in your missing person Facebook groups, please block him. He is preying on victims. He is preying on the weak because they're eager to learn about their loved ones, and he's scamming them out of thousands of dollars. So if you are conducting a missing person Facebook group, please make sure James Michael Terry has been removed. God bless each and every one of you. We fight for victims, all victims. This is a different type of victimization, but we will expose it. Have an amazing day and happy 4th of July to you all.
So I guess this moron here doesn't know what she's talking about. This moron here just served your ass. And it's not done yet because my work's not done. It's not just about exposing. It's about making sure the proper authorities know what's going on. So this moron here is not looking so much like a moron right now. Thank you, JLR, for helping expose this. I know you didn't do it out of disdain for this guy because you didn't even know who he was. But they're going to spin it any way that they would choose to spin it, because that's the scam. That's the con. Get YouTubers on board to promote him as a PI without doing any fact finding, any due diligence. Nothing was done. He threw a bunch of papers on a YouTube channel, and that's his evidence. But nobody even looked into the paperwork he was producing, but I did. I went a step further and reached out to the people that could explain what I was seeing, because I knew the law, and that man explained it exactly as I have explained it. But it's not just coming from Bullhorn Betty now. Now it's coming from an assistant chief in Mississippi, an active law enforcement person, and the president of the Mississippi Professional Investigators Association. Can't get any more credentialed than this man that I just interviewed. No more credentialed can you get than this man I interviewed related to Mississippi and PI practices. So what were you saying, Doug? I'm a what? Oh, I'm right. I'm right. And this guy was scamming. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug, with no thanks, investigates. Finally opening his ears and eyes. But he's probably going to go on his channel and do another BS video, right? He can go on there and drag Dylan Round's family through mud and have this a-hole PI sitting there laughing, them both laughing about him telling the family of Dylan Rounds, F you, F you, F you. Wants to come on this channel and wants me to play a newer video that doesn't look so bad. It probably looked just as worse. This guy has no credentialing, definitely not a PI. He's definitely violating law somewhere. So what was that, Doug? I'm a what? Oh, I was right? That's what I thought. So you can be mad at me, or you can sit here and see that I know a little bit about a little bit. And I'm not saying that he's not doing good work. I don't know what kind of work he's doing. I have no idea where he's getting the information that he brings back to all of you. I have no idea. The bottom line is he's doing it under the guise of him being a private investigator, which he is not. It is illegal to say you are conducting business, a licensed business, when you're not licensed. People go to jail for that all the time. Do I want to see this man in jail? No, I don't. But I want him to quit saying he's a private investigator when he's not a private investigator. You know, the only places he's a private investigator is when he's in the state of Mississippi, okay? When he's in the state of Mississippi, he's a Mississippi PI. When he's in the state of Florida, he's just a resident and cannot conduct PI tasks. That means picking up the phone and calling for clients from the state of Florida and saying he's a PI when he's not a PI in Florida. That is against the law. Okay. Anyways, Candace, thank you for sticking around. I get a little passionate about this because I don't like people calling me a liar and a moron when we know damn good and well I never come out with information without doing my due diligence. I have, right? I did my due diligence on one that I was caught with my pants down. Absolutely did. And was still absolutely wrong. But this one, I made sure before I opened this mouth that I was absolutely correct in what I was saying. Candy, if you want to come up, I just dropped the link for you. And we're going to hear from Candy Howard. You know, we've had, for 2 days, I've been running with a story, and every day we've had a victim of his on here. So this is not just the Dylan Rounds family describing this man's behavior. This is, we've listened multiple days of multiple different people that have had interaction with James Michael Terry saying some of the most despicable things about this man. And here is another one. Well, hello, Candy. I heard so many things about you, and I'm glad you're here today.
Hi, Betty. How are you?
I am doing well. I mean, I'm just a little frustrated with this guy impersonating a PI when he has no credentialing. He's not keeping up with any continuing education. He acts like a frat boy that's drunk half the time. He he pales in comparison to professional PIs that I have dealt with. And so I'm curious because I am going to pay, I'm going to round up the money. We are going to hire a legitimate private investigator to determine what state his driver's license is from. So I know that I'm putting the complaint in the right state.
Well, I've tried to complain to Florida before, and they told me they had to dismiss it because they didn't have jurisdiction over him. So they told me to try the Mississippi agriculture.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because they didn't understand. We've got this. I've got a timeline. I've got exactly how this con is going, and I get results. So I plan on going there. And not only that, if I've got to get some of my political friends to help back this, I will. If he has a driver's license in the state of Florida and he is on the phone in the state of Florida collecting business from the state of Florida and not properly licensed, that's the crux. He might be playing this. We have no idea what he's saying, but we are definitely going to make sure that we are correct when we deal with the Department of Agriculture and making sure that this man is stopped.
Yes, thank you so much for picking this up. Whenever he did this to our family, I tried to spread the word, but nobody knew who I was talking about at that time.
Tell us about your story.
So my son went missing in January, and we hired Jim because he sought me out in a missing person group out of California. I live in Oklahoma, but my son was missing out of California. He said, call me as soon as possible in all caps with his number, and I assumed he knew where my son was. So I called him, and he sold me the greatest sales pitch ever. His the way he talks, how assertive he is. He's a snake. He said, I will charge you a one-time fee. I can find him dead or alive. I guarantee it. It usually takes me about maybe a week or two. I have a high success rate. I've never not found somebody. I only work one case at a time. He told me the media had reached out to him, which was a lie because the media didn't even have my son's story. I mean, just complete fraud all the way around, except for he did give our money back because he knew from the beginning that it was donated to us.
So so your son went missing from California.
Yes.
Okay, let's see what California, because you're not allowed to go into other states. We just heard from a gentleman that's licensed in many states, and your credentialing is for your state. It does, unless you have reciprocity, you can't go into those other states. And this gentleman says let's see what California. Have you thought about filing a complaint in California?
Well, I don't think he ever went to California, but.
Well, we definitely know he was never in Mississippi. So I don't know how. And I think he's trying to explain to the state of Florida that he's somehow in Mississippi or he has this licensing in Mississippi. And I'm going to explain to them, no, if his ass is here in Florida, he follows Florida law, not Mississippi law, unless he's in that state. And we just heard from that guy that he has to be in that state to conduct that state's business.
Yeah. And just within days of talking to him, one time he was in West Virginia and another time he was in Tennessee. And he was like, give me 20 or 40 minutes and so I can get back to my office. Okay, where's his office then? His truck?
Right.
Or vehicle? I don't know what he drives, but I'm glad more families are coming forward. I hope that no other families ever hire him again. I know that there is a family right now who he's working for, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, the only thing we can do is when you see this, you need to be posting these videos in those missing person groups and letting people know who this man is and to stay away from him. And if you see him in those missing persons, you need to reach out to the administrator and tell them your story so he can be immediately removed from those groups.
Yes.
There's things that we can do that's not legal, that doesn't rise to the level of legal process. Just by doing these measures, so everybody can be safe on these social media platforms.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, Candy, there's not been one day that I have ran with a story that we haven't had a new victim call into this show or come up on panel to tell us about their case. Can you tell us, was your son found?
Yes, he was. Thankfully. No thanks to Jim. But my son called me about a week after we hired Jim. And so we're like, what now? We just gave you all this money. And he didn't do anything. He was working an angle that was way far off of left field. So yeah, I don't know. He's crazy.
It's sad.
You heard the video with my husband and him.
No, I did not.
And that was just, if you notice, it was when he asked, do you feel like you worked for that money? And then he just went off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's a snake. He's a con man. And he doesn't want to give anybody, because he's scamming these people out of money so he can survive, so he can live his life, be at the bars, be at the games, do all this stuff, so he can look like a big pimp daddy off the backs of victims.
Exactly.
So, when you did you get a contract from him? Did he ever have you sign a contract or anything like that?
Nothing. He did not even send me a receipt. He didn't send me a bill of like an itemized service. But interestingly enough, he made me pay his taxes. He charged me $200 on top of the $2,500 that he charged.
Who makes you pay their taxes? And is he paying taxes? Maybe I need to reach out to the IRS.
That's something criminal. I think that we may be able to get him on tax fraud.
Wow.
Yup.
Well, if you have other victims, know of other victims, I would definitely start setting up if you have the muster for it, but start setting up a Facebook page for his victims to come to and tell their stories, because I would like to bring people up. I'd like people signing affidavits, but I'm definitely going to be, hiring a PI to find out where this Yahoo resides. And I'm filing the complaint whatever state we find out he's from. I'm filing a complaint in that state. If I find out he's licensed in the state of Florida, you bet your bottom dollar the Department of Agriculture will be looking into this.
Oh, they told me he wasn't licensed there.
Yeah, but they probably didn't realize he resides here. He resides here, and he's using the phone from the state of Florida to solicit private investigator clients. That is the crux here. You can't be in the state of Florida soliciting clients from the state of Florida. It doesn't matter what state they're soliciting them from. You can't do that and act as a private investigator from the state of Florida if you're not licensed in the state of Florida. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I may need to, please reach out to me on bullhornbetty@gmail.com so I have some contact with you, because I will be following up. And if I need the state of Florida to reach out to you, I can give them access to at least your email or whatever information you want to provide. I'll keep that completely confidential. It'll only be for my purposes of dealing with my state.
Okay.
Okay. But
right.
I'm trying like hell, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And the people that have been calling me a moron can eat their words, because this is something I am very, very well versed in. I know the laws inside and out, especially here in the state of Florida. Especially of all the other states in this entire world, this is the one state I know the laws for inside and out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. Please, come back again. This is not going to be the last of this.
Okay. I'll shoot you an email.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So we're on day 3 of talking to this guy. We had 2 victims his first day. We had 1 victim the second day, and we have a 4th victim the 3rd day. There has not been one person that I have spoken to about their dealings with this man. He may say he's done a great job, but I have yet to find out or find anyone that he's worked with that likes him or likes the work or don't feel like they weren't scammed. That I know. I'm hearing that he's possibly in Ohio. Now we heard from her that he was traveling in Virginia and Tennessee, which also have equally strict rules and regulations if he was conducting PI work from those states. So this guy is not good news. And he's on the record saying they have to find me to serve me. They have to know where I'm at to serve me. That is scary coming from a PI that has this much of a bad rap on these streets, that he's hiding from people being able, his clients that are unhappy with his services being able to sue him. And then we have the president saying he can conduct his business all day long from Mississippi. But once he goes out from Mississippi, once he goes outside of Mississippi, he is responsible for following the laws in each of the states that he is going into. But if he's not going into these states and he's residing and doing his primary business from, say, the state of Florida or any other state, like it could be from Ohio. If he's inside Ohio saying he's a Mississippi PI and conducting 100% of his business from another state, he's got to follow that other state's guidelines. So I'm going to open up the phone lines. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And if you are a victim, call in. We want to hear your story too. We are working hard so this doesn't happen to anyone else. We want to make sure this never happens to anyone else. We want to make sure that if anybody wants to bring this guy on their panel, they know he's not a legitimate PI. He is not a licensed PI. He has no business whichever state he's from. I guarantee he's violating the law of that state. Unless he resides in Mississippi, which he told us yesterday, he does not. That came out of his own mouth. Phone lines are open, folks. Let me know your thoughts. Do you guys think he's legit? Do you think he's a scammer? How would you feel if this man did this to you while you were searching for your missing child? Makes you pay your fee entirely up front, no retainer, no contract, no receipt for payment. Then when you have a problem, you got to find me to serve me, When you question his legitimacy, it's F you, F you, F you, and F you, right? Okay. We hear you, Jim. We hear you loud and clear. Yeah, and it makes him pay his taxes. $200 off of $2,500. If you're refunding that money, that's not a tax burden. I hope you refunded her tax money too. And what PI has ever said, oh, well, you need to pay my taxes? What? You're not even legitimate enough to pay your own damn taxes? What? Doug, this has scam written all over it, man. And I tried to help you and tried to protect you, and you took it and threw it in my face. I actually had respect for you and still do. In sorts. It's going to take me a little minute to get over this. You going out and bashing me when I was trying to help you so you didn't fall prey to his scam, actually trying to have your 6. And you killed the messenger. That's what you did. You killed the messenger for trying to actually be a friend to you. Just think about that, Doug. Right? Coming in here, calling me all kinds of despicable names because I was trying to protect your good name. Okay. Go get scammed. All I can say is at this point, he now knows. If he chooses to keep advocating for this guy, you know where he stands on it. He's advocating for victimization of victims' families. That's what Doug will stand on from this point forward if he brings this Yahoo back on his channel anymore. As a PI. As a PI. Now, if the guy comes on his channel and says, I'm not a PI, you know, I'm just a run-of-the-mill person, I'm an investigative reporter, and I'm out here looking into this case, you want to bring him on your panel, that's fine. You start advocating that this man is a PI for your audience and the people that are watching your program, you are lying to them. You are lying to them. So, Doug, again, I did this to have your 6, and you spit it in my face, and that's a shame. That's a shame. But I digress. You know, maybe you didn't know all this information. Maybe now you do. Maybe now your blinders are open. Maybe now you can see. This was not a fight between me and you. It never was. It never was. But I am going to advocate for the truth, whether you agree with it or not. Victims are victims. Wouldn't you agree? Whether they're missing, dead, or just being conned and scammed, a victim is a victim. We are a true crime community. We discuss crime. Not just missing people, not just murder cases, crime, right? Well, maybe birds of a feather. I don't know. Doug, I don't know what's going on with you. And you know, I hope you listened. I really do. I hope you listened to this. I hope you got some valuable information that this man is not who he says he is. And again, this wasn't a beef between me and you. If you want to make it a beef between me and you, do whatever you need to do. But I am standing right here telling you this is not a beef between me and you. This is a beef between me and a con artist that's conning Vic. You told me to be the voice for the voiceless. We just heard Candy on here. Do you not think she's voiceless? She's been trying to fight to expose this man since she was conned. She's a victim. She is voiceless that I'm speaking up for. What about that? What about her? What about that victim? What do we do? Now we just pick and choose which victims we're going to assist and help? This is sad. Nobody should have to go through this. Doug, think about how you would feel if something happened to your child and you met this Yahoo that's meddling in everything, took your money, didn't do crap for you, is acting like he's a PI in all these states he has no jurisdiction to be a PI in, and conning and scamming, and then giving you the wrong information to boot. How would you feel? Should I not give those people their voice? Should I not give them their voice? Got to think about that. I am doing my job. I am focused on the victims. I am helping victims. Yes, that's the problem, and that's what I'm exposing. So what I'm going to do, guys, is nobody's calling in about this. We're having the conversation in the chat, which is fine. But I'm wondering if we should just go ahead and try to call. Well, I probably have to do that private. I am in the state of Florida. So unless I have permission to record them, I cannot record state of Florida employees without their permission. But let me get off here. I will go live this afternoon after I make the calls to the Department of Agriculture. And we are going to start working on this. You know, if he's sitting here in the state of Florida advocating that he's a PI and he has no valid PI license, no Class C license, his Class C license is not associated with a Class A license, he's violating Florida law. He's violating Florida law. And you know what? It may upset people with what I'm doing. Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy when I was on there. And I don't think he's necessarily involved other than he said that, his information was legit. But see, if he's getting that information under the guise that he's a PI, he's violating the law. And Tyler Feller seemed very nice. Listen, at the end of the day, Doug is nice, right? He's funny. He's got a quirky sense of humor. He says some really outlandish stuff. He's got a good following, a good base. But if he's promoting somebody that's harming the victims that he's talking about, isn't he also victimizing the victims he's talking about? Because in one hand yesterday, he had people on looking for Dylan Rounds, and then decides to do another live with this jerk off that was fired from the Rounds family, and giving that jerk off a platform to insult even more people because he has come under scrutiny for his bad behavior. Like, if he was doing legitimate stuff and nobody complained about him, I wouldn't even be diving into him right now. But there's so many people that have reached out to me about this guy that has worked directly with this guy and knowing ethics. I took ethics class. I almost became a private investigator in the state of Florida. I didn't because of the 2-year requirement, the same thing this Yahoo is complaining about. But you don't see me out here calling myself a PI. He's allowed to be a Mississippi PI all day long from the state of Mississippi. But while he's in the state of Florida, if he doesn't have a Florida license, he is not a PI. So pack your bags, Jim, and move your ass to Mississippi so you can practice law legitimately, practice private investigating legitimately, because you can't do it from the state of Florida. Yeah. I don't know who would. And this is what's also doing it, is we're exposing this guy for who he is. So hopefully somebody that is being reached out to by this guy does, at least a Google search of his name. And hopefully they will find these clips and realize who they're truly dealing with. I mean, if you want to be talked to like crap, you want to be conned out of, thousands of dollars, call Jim. He's your man. Call Jim. He's your man. If you want all your personal information exposed online, call Jim. He's your man. He can help you. If you want to pay him $2,500 and have to go to a YouTube channel to find out what you paid him $2,500 for, Jim Terry's your man. Give him a call. He's your guy. Well, he's going to have to, he tried to repair himself once. And, in this business, you get knocked around a little bit and you dust yourself off and you move yourself forward. Again, this is not a beef between me and Doug. He's making it a beef between me and him. Yeah, and we'll expose your personal information. And if you don't want to pay him, he threatens you to expose you to the people that you're most fearful of. It's almost blackmail, if you ask me. But either way, I digress. I haven't talked to the Department of Agriculture. So let's see what I can produce from the Department of Agriculture and making sure this guy is fully investigated, and find out if he is a resident of the state of Florida, he is held accountable to the state of Florida's laws. And if he's a resident of another state, we're going to make sure he's accountable to those state laws. This is a crime. This is speaking up for the voiceless. Now, Doug, once this is all said and done, I hope you apologize to me and JLR, but more importantly, me. So, dad burn it. This is my, can't use this spoon now. It fell on the floor. Now it's got to be washed. You know how Mama says. Where's my other spoon? Oh, well. Got to have my coffee. So, guys, good day. I will be back. Sure is a crime. Absolutely. And people that don't understand the law, I mean, this is as easy as I can express it to you. What in the world? How can you justify, listen, that you don't live in a state, you don't have a brick and mortar store, you're in another state practicing PI services, but somehow Mississippi, where you don't reside and have no business dealings in outside of one piece of paper, that is the law that governs your business practices. If we got to pick and choose which state laws we follow, why don't we just have state laws for all the states instead of individual state laws? Because we're sovereign states. Sovereign states. That means Florida doesn't have to follow Mississippi. Mississippi doesn't have to follow Florida. Florida doesn't have to follow the laws in Ohio. Ohio doesn't have to follow the laws in Florida. It depends on where you reside and where you are conducting your business. And if you're not conducting your business inside Mississippi, you have to be licensed in the state you are conducting your business. You just heard that man say he can do whatever he wants inside Mississippi. But once you go outside of Mississippi, you got a problem. So we know, we just heard from Candy, she's in California. You tell me how a Mississippi, no licensed state, by the way, means you're not a licensed PI. You're just allowed to perform PI tasks within the state. How is that legal to reach out to somebody in California? Let's look at what California private investigator requirements. So in the state of Florida, or in the state of California, where that lady was just from, so that means he was conducting work in the state of California. No matter what state he was from, he's reaching out, he's crossing state lines and going into California to do research. He's reaching out to, he's picking up the phone and calling people in a state he's not authorized to conduct PI practices in and conducting PI practices in. So California says for licensure, let's see, more items. Let's keep reading. Let's see if it pops up. So here's your requirements to conduct your business in California. Mr. Jim Terry, you must be 18 years old. Undergo a criminal background check through the California Department of Justice. Did you do that, Jim? You must complete a criminal background check if you have previously submitted fingerprints for another BSI license registration. So it sounds like you have to have at least 3 years and 2,000 hours each, totaling 6,000 hours of compensated experience in investigative work. Did you do that, Jim? Is there reciprocity from the state you're licensed in to do business in California, Jim? Or you have to have a law degree. Do you have a law degree? You can bypass your 6,000 hours if you have a law degree. Do you have a law degree, Jim? Associate degree in political science, criminal justice. Pass a 2-hour multiple choice examination. Did you do that so you can conduct business in California, Jim? I'm just curious. Now we talk about the Dylan Rounds case. He was hired by somebody. We need to find out what state he was working in to acquire that client, because that's going to be the state he's going to be required to be licensed in, and whether that state has reciprocity to Idaho. But Idaho has no licensing, so he could go into Idaho, talk to people in Idaho, do whatever he needs to do in Idaho, right? We know from his own admission he's not a Mississippi resident and nor has a brick and mortar store in Mississippi. Therefore, him standing on this, I can practice PI because I have a $25 piece of paper in Mississippi, is a lie. That's the scam. He's showing this piece of paper and he is standing on his hill with his piece of paper trying to justify his actions, and it doesn't pass the mustard. So now let's go over to Utah, because this case from Idaho bled into Utah and Nevada. So let's see what Utah. So we definitely know that they have a, let's see, is this with the state of Utah? Let's see what they require. So to apply, it says to be a private investigator, you have to be at least 21 years of age and good moral character. Administrative rules, licensing of PI. Let's see what this says. This is going to take a little more time to look up. See if we can get anything. And then we'll go over to Nevada and find out what they are. But you know, this is the stuff that irritates me. Current rules, emergency proposed rules, maybe. So maybe I'm looking at it wrong. So I'll find out the rules for Utah, and let's go to, what was the other state? Nevada, right? Because we heard on Doug No Thanks last night by the gentleman that was out there wanting to do a search party. Oh, and by the way, there is a search party that was on Doug No Thanks Investigates. They are trying to get volunteers to go out and search, and I believe it's on the Metello, Nevada side. A gentleman out there has been working, I didn't catch his name, he's been working trying to search for Dylan Rounds in multiple areas, and they are going to be doing a search. I will try to find that information. If you guys are in and around the Nevada, Utah area and would like to help with the search of Dylan Rounds, I believe they said they were going to try to do it this weekend. So those that would like to participate in that, please do so. Let's just do Nevada. You must have a clean criminal history. You will have to pay a small licensing fee. You need 10,000 hours of PI experience in 5 years. Degrees in criminal justice type can account for some of the hours needed. So if you were calling into Nevada as a PI, do you have reciprocity there, Jim? You know, when you called into Metello to ask people questions as a PI, did you have reciprocity to do that? And you're going to try to say, well, I was in a different state, but you weren't in Mississippi. But you weren't in Mississippi. So again, not a licensed PI, not a properly credentialed PI. If he's in the state of Mississippi, he can conduct his Mississippi PI practices all day long. When he goes outside of that state, he's required to follow the other state's laws. But the problem is he doesn't live or reside in Mississippi. He doesn't live or reside in Nevada. He doesn't live or reside in Utah. Where does he reside? I have a funny feeling when I pay this PI, we're going to find out that he truly does have a valid Florida driver's license, and he resides in the state of Florida. And if not, as we all heard, there's the possibility of Ohio. So let's look at Ohio, just in case he's in a different state and not in the state of Florida, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, the state is just semantics, right? Like the president said, the president of Mississippi Private and Professional Investigators Association said, it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's just kind of splitting hairs. What state? But it does matter whether they're allowed to conduct PI businesses from that state. So let's just look. So let's just say he's in Ohio. Ohio private investigation, and I did look up, as you can see in my last thing. In order to obtain a license, a company must have a qualifying agent. The QA must meet minimum requirements of professional experience, undergo a criminal background check, and pass an exam. So, Jim, if you are in Ohio, did you do any of this? So what am I trying to accomplish here? Well, one, I'm trying to make sure that this type of illegal conduct does not happen and does not affect even more victims' families. I want him to quit calling himself a PI because he knows damn good and well he's not. And I want him to be held accountable for his past action because it's criminal, and what he has put these families through should be prosecuted. There's too many victims of his in his wake. And if you can't see that, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to help you. Believe what you want to believe. I know the law. I'm on the right side of this law. And I'm not sitting there telling people that I am a private investigator when I hold no proper education, no proper credentialing, no proper continued education, and have no agency overseeing my work. You don't see me doing that. And I'm an advocate of you see something, you say something. He has damaged the Dylan Rounds family. He has caused them harm when they are already struggling. And you think I'm not going to say something? Have you lost your ever-loving mind? So call me a moron, but I know what I'm talking about. So this moron is a pretty smart moron, probably the smartest moron that I've seen in a little minute. And I'm not tooting my own horn. So now that we have exposed this man, he is not credentialed in the state of Florida or Ohio, the two states that were brought up that he may. Well, you know what? There was other states. Let's look at the Virginia, right? So for Virginia, which is what Candy said where he was at the time he was speaking to her, the Florida Department of Criminal Justice requires a license to become a private investigator in the state. To qualify for licensure, you must be 18 years old, complete a 60-hour entry-level private investigator training, and you must pass a state exam. It doesn't say that on here, but I know that because of other people in the state of Virginia that I know. So you have to pass a state exam to be a private investigator in Virginia. Let's check out Tennessee. What does it need to be in Tennessee? Tennessee, to apply for Tennessee private investigator's license, you must be 21 years old, licensure and certification requirements. So you must become, let's see, what does it take to become? Meet requirements to obtain necessary education and training in Tennessee, submit your Tennessee application, take a Tennessee examination, and work as a private investigator in Tennessee. So again, Jim, did you follow these requirements when you were in Tennessee, calling people on the phone saying you were a PI? Were you following these laws to have your PI practice and business conducted in those states when you were in there? Right? So you have no credentialing. You've undergone see, the reason why these other states are so important is because they actually do background checks. They actually make sure that you don't just go to what I think happened is he probably took his private investigator's license in the state of Florida. He did the course, he did everything, and he was going to become a private investigator and probably work for somebody for 2 years. He probably was going to do that. And he probably went to submit his application. I don't know if this is true or not. I may have to ask if an application was filed with the state of Florida. He may never even have tried. Who knows? He may just be that lazy. But I have a funny feeling he didn't pass the background check to become a PI because they have strict standards. Possibly. I don't know that for a fact. That's just, hypothetical. It's all hypothetical. It's conjecture because I don't have the necessary information to make that statement. In Canada, laws are the same across the board for all provinces, only changes in taxes per province. It would take forever to learn all the rules per state. Do they teach you rules in school? They used to teach you law classes in school. They used to teach you how to balance a checkbook and how to cook in school. All that's been removed. They don't want people up and up on their rights here in the United States because they like to take those rights away. And if you don't know you have them, you don't realize you just lost them, right? But these laws are in these other states are there to protect people like me and you when we're hiring services. So we don't get unscrupulous people playing games with our families and our lives, or getting access to our private personal information and exposing all that information on YouTube. He's a confirmed bachelor. That should say a lot. Nobody can handle being around him for very long. I'm sure Doug's going to get annoyed by him as well. He's too pompous. He's too pompous. But Doug is almost like a frat boy too. Maybe that's right up his alley. Maybe they just like being frat boys together. I mean, you guys, I got to admit, you guys are getting a little too old for the nonsense, but I digress. You know, you're as young as you feel. You're as young as you feel. So Doug, you know, if you're watching this, please tell me where any of my information has been inaccurate. Or Jim, here's my number. Call in here. I'm ready to have that conversation with you now that I've got the information that I do. You're a no call, no show today. Makes me wonder why. You can go on all these other channels that like you, that are helping you scheme people defraud people out of this money under the guise you're a licensed PI when you're not. Do you guys think this was damaging for his cause? Put a 1 in the box if you think I hit a home run. Put a 2 in the box if you say, I'm still on the fence. And put a 3 in the box if I didn't sway you one bit about this guy. One, if I did a good job. 2, if I don't know what actually 3 is if I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm curious what Doug, you know, now that Doug finally has the full, that's if he stayed. He may have known what was coming up and didn't want to be here for that. I don't know. Again, Doug, this is not a beef between me and you. I can tell you that wholeheartedly. I got nothing against you. You're making it a personal issue when it's not. I'm going to do what I do. Whether people love me or hate me, I'm going to do what I do. If I know I'm on the right side of something, I'm rolling with it. So, well, it's been fun, guys. I'm glad I've been able to help. Please pass these videos around. That video is, let me show you on my page so you know which one it is. We need to get this stuff. We need to get this stuff in the hands and post these in these groups. And it's this one right here. This one right here. This is the one, the one in the yellow, where it says, I am a PI because I say I am. All right. That's the one that needs to be copied and pasted in all these missing person groups in Facebook. Okay. We have to stop this somehow. And the only way we're going to stop this is all working together to make sure this man cannot victimize another family, another grieving family. My heart is broken for the Dylan Rounds family. It is broken. You don't see me coming out the gate swinging this hard at somebody if they ain't doing wrong. I won't do it. I won't subject you guys to it. I won't subject myself to it. But when you are intentionally inflicting more pain on a family that is desperate to find answers about their son, you've got my attention. You don't want the attention of Bullhorn Betty. You just don't. And people may call me despicable. They can call me a moron. They can call me whatever they want. I don't care. I don't want anybody being conned by this man ever again. And I'm proving my point. I have integrity. I'm not going to just turn the other cheek. It's not in my bone to do so. So now, Jim, you got the attention of Bullhorn Betty. I tell you, it's the attention you probably never, ever, ever want to have. but you think you can con and scam, you do not know the lengths I'm willing to go to expose you. I will do it all lawfully. I'll do it all above board, and I'll do it all within the law. So anyways, guys, that's the spiel for today. We're going to continue to go down this rabbit hole until we get answers on how this man is able to conduct himself. As soon as I reach out to the PI and I get a price for it, we're going to crowdfund, and we're going to make sure that whatever complaint I file is in the appropriate state. I will be calling the Department of Agriculture today and letting them know what we found out. So with that, God bless each and every one of you. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We will have an update on everything tomorrow. Don't forget, if you guys care for these victims, this is the video right here of James M. Terry that needs to start being disseminated to all the missing person groups about this guy, so there's no other victims. There's still going to be victims because this guy truly is a con artist, but we can curb his ability to do that with the help of the audience. So with that, guys, God bless each and every one of you. Go make it an amazing day. We are here working very hard behind the scenes. And yeah, this is not normally a case that I would run with, but he stepped into the poo-poo when he did what he did. And it is a case that I am covering because I'm covering the Dylan Rounds case. And there is multiple crimes in this case, and one that came after he disappeared, and one that came directly from this Yahoo right here, James Michael Terry. Real winner, not. So good day. And don't forget to be fearless, folks. We have to do it every day. It is a fight here on the streets of YouTube. But when I got out here, I took the challenge. You know, this kind of stuff, it can't happen. And we're going to keep going down this rabbit hole until we get some answers. And until I'm told that he's completely legal above board, which I doubt we're going to find out. So with that, God bless each and every one of you. Hug your loved ones. And remember, tomorrow is never promised.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.